So it's likely that many of you are now faced with challenges that you didn't have before this all started. And it may feel like life is quite different and there's a lot of uncertainty and it can be very overwhelming right now. All of our plans have kind of just evaporated and disappeared, and it kind of, it leaves us wondering what to do or what's next, or, you know, gives us a greater sense of unease and insecurity during this time, which of course is going to heighten some emotions such as fear and anxiety, which we know are some of the key triggers for trichotillomania. Hello, welcome. So it goes without saying that the world that we live in and how we've been living has rapidly changed within the past several months. I've received some requests to make a video on how to manage trichotillomania during lockdown and social distancing, because this has affected many of us in different ways, and it's still happening now. Whoa, sorry about that. I have 3 cats, so they're a little bit excited right now. But yeah, so I've received some requests to make this video, and I know that hopefully the lockdown will be ending for some of us within the next few weeks. For myself, the tentative date is still May 11th, so hopefully the lockdown won't be in effect much longer. But I do predict and I do believe that the social distancing is still going to remain, it's still going to remain throughout the year. I think people are going to stay cautious, and so that might mean that we might be a little bit more distant from our family and friends than we normally would have in the past. So it's likely that many of you are now faced with challenges that you didn't have before this all started. And it may feel like life is quite different and there's a lot of uncertainty, and it can be very overwhelming right now. All of our plans have kind of just evaporated and disappeared, and it kind of, it leaves us wondering what to do or what's next, or, gives us a greater sense of unease and insecurity during this time, which of course is going to heighten some emotions such as fear and anxiety, which we know are some of the key triggers for trichotillomania. So while I can't claim to know what each of you are experiencing right now and what each of you are going through, because all of our experiences at this time are just so unique and we're all handling these changes in our own ways, I do hope that I can offer some insights from my experience, and hopefully that can help you to navigate through this time to the best of your ability. So I've spoken with some of you on Instagram, and because I wanted to gain some more insight on some of the challenges that you are facing during this time, specifically with regards to trichotillomania, because I personally don't pull anymore. I don't have trichotillomania, so I really wanted to try my best to drop into that space of empathy and to really try and put myself in your shoes to the best of my ability. So in addition to getting these insights from you guys, I've done my own reflection and kind of meditation on this topic and on my experience with trichotillomania. to come up with some things that I hope will be useful to you all during this time and in the following months. So today I'll be discussing on the topic of isolation and social distancing, which I think is a thing that has changed our daily lives the most in the past couple of months. Due to lockdown and social distancing, many of you are having to work from home. You're feeling lonely. And also you may be living in close proximity with people who may not be as understanding or maybe even not aware of your trichotillomania. So I would like to just talk on these topics a little bit. Yeah, sorry, my cats are going completely crazy right now. Of course, like right when I sit down to film a video. Yeah. Anyway, so the first thing that I want to say is that you can go easy on yourself. We are all going through something on a collective level that we've never experienced before. And so things are unknown and uncertain right now. And this naturally brings up uncomfortable emotions. There's a lot of fear going around and a lot of worry, stress, and anxiety that comes with it. I just want to remind you that this is all okay and that you're doing an amazing job by being here and by choosing to wake up each day and choosing to experience the chaos that is happening in the world right now. I personally believe that on a soul level, our souls chose to be here on earth at this time to experience such a pivotal moment in history, because each of us has the potential to create a new, kinder earth and way of living. And in order to do that, we need to start by being kinder to ourselves. So I want you to give yourself permission to make mistakes as you're figuring out how to live and be in this changed world. And I want you to forgive yourself for being human. Fully acknowledge where you're at and just let yourself be there for as long as you need. Trichotillomania is a safety mechanism. And right now, for many of us, we don't feel safe and secure. It's natural that many of you will be pulling more at this time. We all have safety mechanisms. I don't pull any more myself, but I haven't been caring for my body as I usually would. So I've been eating more processed, fatty, like junk food, and my exercise routine has pretty much evaporated. But I know that this is all part of the process, because if I were to resist these foods or force myself to exercise, I would just probably end up binge eating or like burning myself out. So this time requires us all to show ourselves a lot of grace and compassion as we all adjust and navigate these new circumstances. I also want to remind you that your power always lies within you, never outside of you. And that power comes in the form of choice, which is your authority over yourself and your reclamation of responsibility over your life. Once we remember that I have the power over what I choose to believe, how I choose to act, and what I choose to share, and that I am responsible for myself, my actions, and my emotions, we can choose to start shifting our awareness toward positivity and optimism, and the solutions to our challenges will begin to present themselves naturally, and the implementation will be effortless. So do some self-inquiry as to where you're currently at right now. Do you need to be with yourself and your emotions? Do you need to practice consciously surrendering to your safety mechanisms to allow yourself the space to breathe? If you need to be there right now, you can use Trick as a guidance tool. Rather than fighting Trick, you can use it to your advantage. I think so many of us, or so many of you, have it in your minds that Trick is evil, Trick is bad. We need to battle Trick, we need to fight against it, which at a certain moment on your journey that might be true. Maybe the battle will pay off and you'll be able to overcome it. But for most of you, you're not at that stage yet. And so for most of you, you need to cultivate a relationship with your trichotillomania. You need to get to know it, get to understand it a little bit better, and to use it to your advantage, which will ultimately bring you to the point where you'll be able to start implementing more willpower, and so like maybe fighting or battling against Trick. But right now we need to cultivate a relationship with it, because it doesn't have to be a struggle or a battle to overcome it. When it's ready to leave, it will go and it will be effortless. Like, that's how it was in my case. I basically didn't really have to try. I just decided that I was ready to let it go. And then I was really conscious and aware about what I was doing and how I was going to get there. And then it just happened naturally. But before that, I stopped fighting against it and I stopped battling it. So practice consciously surrendering to it and using it as a guidance tool. So you can use it as a tool by allowing you to go through some kind of self-inquiry, either during or after a polling session. So you can touch base with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? What do I need right now? What will help me to feel more connected with myself? Because oftentimes when we are polling, or when you pull, it's like there's an underlying emotion present, whether that's stress, anxiety, fear, worry, even boredom. Even boredom is, a type of emotion. It's basically the lack of emotion. It's like the lack of interest. So anytime you're pulling, it's a message or a signal to you to kind of get back on track, to find your safety, to find something that you're missing or needing. So for those of you who find that your polling has increased due to working from home or studying from home, or not being able to work at all, or just finding that your alone time has increased, I feel you. When I polled, I only polled when I was alone. So I can imagine my polling would probably be happening nonstop right now. So I can really try to empathize with you right now. And I know that it's not easy. It's not easy being alone. And I can imagine that the increase in polling may be uncomfortable for some of you. And I really do empathize with you. It's really uncomfortable for our ego when we undergo changes, especially when it comes to our appearance. So for some of you, if you're experiencing an increase in pulling and maybe you're without eyelashes for the first time in a long time, or maybe you've pulled a patch on your head, this change can really take a blow to our ego. So just be aware of that. Yes, we have our ego, and our ego has a place and a purpose. However, I'm sorry. So it has a purpose and a place. However, we have another component to us, the component that goes much deeper than the ego. Our ego identifies with our appearance, our status, our material world, our material possessions, our physicality and that kind of thing. But we do have a component to us that goes much deeper than that, and where our values hold more importance than our appearance and our status and things like that. So just keep that in mind. So usually I didn't try to stop my pulling. If I felt the urge, I just let myself pull. But the thing that helped me to reduce the pulling was to fully immerse myself in whatever it was that I was doing while I was alone. And I actually spent a lot of time alone during the years when I had trichotillomania. I'm somewhat of an introvert, and so this was especially heightened when I had trichotillomania. So I can remember that after school, like when I was in high school, after school, I would always come home and I'd basically just go straight to my room and lock myself in my room. So I just close the door and just stay in there until dinner, basically. And then I spent a lot of my time drawing, which I was always very, it was just a very immersive experience for me. Once I started drawing, my mind and my focus and my heart were completely in that. Or I liked to sing, so that always took a lot of my heart and my passion in singing. I put a lot of my feeling and emotion into that, and I think singing was definitely like a huge emotional release for me. So when I was immersed in these activities, I was connecting with myself, which my soul was craving at the time. I didn't know this back then, but I now know that after lots of self-reflection and meditation and things like that, my soul really needed that self-connection, which meant that I didn't pull so much during these self-connecting moments. I was operating from my heart and not from my mind. So the times that I pulled the most was when I was trying to fall asleep at night, because that's when my mind would start going like crazy, and I was no longer operating from my heart. I would always just be thinking about the day, if I'd made any mistakes, or if I had any regrets, or thinking about what someone said to me that day that maybe upset me, or thinking about, what I was going to do tomorrow if I had a test, or if I was afraid of being confronted by someone, or my thoughts were always in my head while I was trying to fall asleep at night. Something that actually really helped me was that I started to listen to music a lot while I was falling asleep. So I think it really helped. It really helped to relax me. If I told you the kind of music that I listened to while I was falling asleep, you'd probably think I was crazy, but I would actually put on like metal music because at the time metal music really calmed me down. I think I had a lot of anger and a lot of resentment, and yeah, that caused a lot of pain. And so the metal music was definitely an outlet for a lot of that anger and resentment that I really needed to release. So yeah, even falling asleep to that music, it really helped me. um, so ask yourself how you can start operating more from your heart, dropping into your body, and calming your mind. Because I think those three things are just going to change your world. They're going to change your world in combination. Finding out how you can connect more with your heart, what makes you feel passionate, what makes you feel um, just emotional in a good way. You know, like what really tugs at your heartstrings? What brings you out of your mind and into your body? Is that physical activity? Is that working with your hands? Is that um, even like something like singing, right? Bringing it into your body, singing or dancing, or even just an awareness meditation where you are just slowing down your breathing, focusing on your breathing, and focusing on different sensations in your body. That can be an example of dropping into your body. Maybe that's connecting with nature in some way. I know that it's a little bit more challenging for us to get outside and to connect with nature, but if you have that possibility, I really recommend going outside to take a walk, or even just putting your feet in the grass, sitting out in the sun for a little while. It will really help and do a lot of good during this time. And then, yeah, calming the mind. So that might be something like meditation again. Um, could be something like listening to music, even playing a game on your phone or something, like something relaxing. I don't recommend spending too much time on electronic devices, especially social media. I think at this time we need to be limiting our social media use and media consumption in general, um, maybe just to a certain window of time during the day. I really recommend limiting your electronic device use in bed. So if you can, set your phone in another room and don't check your phone first thing in the morning. Don't check social media first thing in the morning. I really recommend taking the first moments of the morning for yourself to kind of do some of that self-connecting work, maybe journaling, meditation, maybe a yoga routine, even just taking a shower to feel fresh and cleansed and ready for a new day. I really recommend doing those things. But again, you have to use your own discernment here. I can only give you my suggestions from what has worked for me, and I always encourage you to check back in with yourself and ask yourself what feels relevant and what feels good for you. Um, so if you find it difficult to operate from your heart or drop into your body and to calm the mind while you're working, studying, or while you're alone, then it might be time to ask yourself why that's difficult. Are you passionate about what you're doing? Do you enjoy the things you do when you're alone? Do you enjoy your job? Do you enjoy what you're studying about? Are you focusing more on others and neglecting yourself? Are you making sure to connect with yourself daily? So these are the questions that you're going to want to ask yourself if you continuously find it difficult um, to interrupt the pulling cycle. If you find it difficult to interrupt your pulling sessions, or if you just find that they're happening a little bit more frequently now, it can be a really good opportunity for you to do some inquiry into why that's happening. I wish I could tell you why that's happening, but the only person who knows the answers to that is you. Okay. So another thing that many of you may be facing is that if you're not living alone, you may be living in close proximity with roommates or with family who are unsupportive, misunderstanding, or unaware of your trick, which can cause increased tension and anxiety in living situations right now. So personally, I lived with unsupportive and misunderstanding family. And for the most part, it was a pretty taboo subject. So it was never really mentioned or discussed for the most part in my household, especially in the later years. In the beginning, it was a little bit different because I was a kid. I was very young. So the when it was brought up during those years, it was usually never a positive thing. It was usually being told to just stop or something like that. But later on, yeah, we just stopped talking about it altogether because nothing, telling me to just stop wasn't really doing anything. And I think my parents or my mom, she didn't really know what else to do. So yeah, it just kind of became a taboo subject that was just never brought up. Anyway, I just wanted to share that to show you a little bit of where I'm coming from and what my situation was like in my household. Perhaps some of you can relate. So yeah, it was never really brought up, and it did make me feel pretty lonely at times, and it definitely made me feel like there was something wrong with me, which brought up quite a bit of shame. So to this, I would just like to reassure you that there is nothing wrong with you, and there is nothing wrong with pulling. It's simply a signal being sent from your body. That's all it is. If we take away the labels, if we take away all of the things that we believe about trick and we just see it for what it is, that's all it is. It's just a signal being sent to you from your body to get your attention. So anything that anyone says regarding your trick is simply a projection that that person is displaying regarding their own discomfort with their own shame and their beliefs around normality. And a lot of the times, other people's beliefs about something can become ours, especially if it's our family and our parents. We receive a lot of conditioning from them unknowingly and unintentionally. They're not intentionally trying to make us believe these things. It's just the things that we've observed as we've grown up, whether that's with our family, our society, our education system, our culture, our religion. We receive conditioning around certain things. And so what one person perceives to be abnormal might not be the case. It's just their projection as to what they choose to believe is normal or not in their own lives. So unfortunately, there's not a way to make someone understand you and what you're going through. But there is a key. There's a key thing that comes into play here. The key to acceptance from others starts with acceptance of yourself. When you know, understand, and accept yourself, others will naturally do the same. It becomes effortless. So it will be easier to share with them in an open way. That will be easier for someone to try an understanding if they are willing. Because if you are able to understand and know and accept yourself, it will be easier for someone else to do that. And it will be easier for you to even to know how to talk to someone else about what you're going through because you understand it more deeply yourself. But truly, when you know, understand, and accept yourself, the need for others to understand and accept you begins to fade, because you'll just start to realize that their opinions don't hold as much weight, and you'll begin to attract the people who are willing to understand and accept you. So in order to do this, I would suggest journaling about yourself daily. Come to know yourself better. Why do you do the things you do? Why do you care about certain things? Why do you need others to love and accept you? And how can you begin showing yourself more love and acceptance? Remember that even if no one else is there for you, you have the ability to give yourself everything that you're needing if you choose to do so. You are always supported no matter what. All you have to do is to decide to treat yourself how you would like to be treated. That's it. You just have to decide to treat yourself the way that you would like to be treated, and you'll come to find that the people around you, or the people that start to come into your life, will just naturally do the same. They'll just naturally treat you with respect, and they'll naturally try to understand you. They'll naturally want to understand you. They'll naturally just accept you for being you without needing you to change, or without needing you to be different than you already are. So all of these things can also be applied to those who are unaware of the pulling. So I can imagine that the current circumstances, if you are living with someone who doesn't know about your pulling, would bring up a lot of fear, panic, and feelings of anxiety. While living closely with others during this time may make it harder to conceal the pulling. So all of my family knew about my pulling, but I would hide it from other people, and even from my family. Like, I couldn't walk around the house without wearing eyeliner. Like, I felt naked without it for the most part. Like, first thing in the morning, I would put on eyeliner, and yeah, I couldn't really be seen without it. So I understand a bit about what it's like to need to hide it. I hid it from my friends, whether they knew about it or not. We didn't really discuss it. I think I only talked about it with maybe one or two of my closest friends in high school. But for the most part, I would try my best to hide it. And if I was ever confronted about it, gosh, my heart would just start pounding. And yeah, it was just, I had like this terrible feeling, this terrible anxiety that would come up about like, what would they say? How would I defend myself? What if they hurt me, like emotionally, and that kind of thing. Those are the things that I kind of thought about. So in addition to building a supportive, loving relationship with yourself, ask yourself where this fear of being found out really comes from. Where does this fear of being discovered, of people seeing your natural state, where does that come from? While I do believe that a version of us exists without trichotillomania, your body can never be inauthentic at one specific time. Like, your body is always authentic because it's always present. It's always in the moment. It's always displaying what's true for you in the moment. So I believe that, in the moment, trichotillomania is an expression of what we are feeling and of what is really happening inside of us, and is like an expression of our soul. But then we have the ability to shift out of it into a life that doesn't require this type of expression. So why is it that you are afraid of others seeing this expression of yourself right now, this current expression of yourself? If the main fear is that you don't want someone to see you differently or to reject you, then ask yourself why that scares you. And then just keep tracing down these thoughts until you're left with the root fear. This is a fear that you can work on healing. For most of us, it's the fear of abandonment. So we're afraid of, showing our ugly side or our dark side to other people because we're afraid that they'll leave us or that they won't, they'll reject us. And this is ultimately the fear of being unlovable. We're afraid that no one will love us. And this fear can sometimes happen at a very early age. Can start at a very early age if we felt at any time that we were in danger of being unloved by our caretakers or by the people who were supposed to be there for us or something like that. So once you have identified your core fear, then meditate or journal around that topic and see what comes up. Begin to give yourself what you're needing to allow you to feel safer and supported. Eventually, the need to hide your trick will start to feel less necessary. Oftentimes, our fears are just projections of our own negative beliefs. So we tend to assume or think of the worst. And usually, the worst case scenario never happens, but we hide or we put up walls as a means of protection. So you can even do this exercise where you kind of think of the worst case scenario and then work through, even if this was the worst case scenario, I'm still here, I'm still alive, I still have the ability to provide myself with safety and love and all the things that I'm needing. So even if I was rejected or abandoned or unloved by others, I can still give myself support. I can give myself love. I can give myself all these things that I'm needing. And then I know that by doing that, I will attract people into my life who will be able to accept me and love me just the way that I am. It really all comes down to how much you love yourself and how much you're willing to have your own back. It sounds a little bit cliche, but I will never stop saying this. Self-love really is a key component, a key element, not only to managing the pulling, but for long-term healing, if that's what you're wanting, to achieve someday. Most of us don't have enough self-love these days because we've handed our power over to the thoughts and opinions of others. So it's time for us to reclaim our power and to remember how strong and how capable we are of healing ourselves inside and out. We really are. We have that ability. And many of us have forgotten that. And so I'm hoping that, by watching this video, maybe you can start to remember how truly capable you are of turning things around and of feeling more powerful, feeling more in control of your life. I don't really like the word control because truly I believe that nothing is really in our control, but the thing that we do have control over is ourselves. And so when we are able to work better with ourselves rather than against ourselves, we just begin to naturally start to feel more not in control, but just we just begin to feel like we have a better handle on our life, on what happens in the future, on the things that we can't control. These things start not to affect us as much, because we start to realize that we are okay. Like whatever happens, we are going to be okay. And we might not know exactly how things are going to resolve themselves, but we just have to trust that that we are taken care of, not only by ourselves, but by, you know, the energy that is present within all living things. There's like an innate power within nature. Things just know how to work themselves out, and we don't have to tell it how it's going to work itself out. Like if I get injured on my, if I get an injury, my body just knows how it's going to work itself out, and I don't have to tell my body how to do what it's going to do. It just does it. So I hope that makes sense. That was kind of a strange analogy, but the bottom line is that we don't have as much to fear about as our mind wants us to think that we do. Anyway, I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please like the video, as that lets me know to keep creating content like this. And comment below of your experience over these past few months and what you found useful in this video. I'd love to hear what you're going through, and I'd like to offer my support if I can. Yeah. So I hope I'm wishing all of you, just some peace and some ease through, the next month and the next few months, as we all kind of navigate through these choppy waters. And yeah, just sending my love to you all and wishing you all the best.